My name is Charles Pease, born on the 15th of February 1998, and I live in Brussels.
My name is Prince Joseph Mube. I'm 19 years old and I live in Brighton.
My name's Josh Rogers. I'm recently turned 19 and I live in Brighton.
My name is Reese. I am 19 and I live in London.
Otto, I'm 19 and I live in London.
I am BT, I'm 19 and I live at Sussex Uni campus in Brighton, but I'm originally from near Liverpool. So I identify as non-binary. I was assigned male at birth, but I essentially didn't feel like that was an appropriate label for me.
The term being a man to me means quite a few things.
You want to be strong, you want to have pride in yourself and what you're doing. You want to look strong, not only to other people, but to yourself.
I normally think of all my role models that are men in life.
Being a man to me means that you take responsibility.
If you want to be proud of who you are, what you look like, what you're doing, and just sort of not be faultless, because everyone's got faults, but just sort of be proud.
When you are fearless.
When I think of manhood and the male sort of idea, I always think of the worst successes of like being in an all-boys school and this sort of aggressive competition culture to always be on top and always be the best. Certainly very much to not really talk about your emotions.
No, I've never had a chance to see my dad cry.
Yeah, I have seen my dad cry when his mum passed away at the funeral. That was probably one of the only times, to be honest, yeah.
I have never seen my dad cry. I've seen him very sad, but I've never seen him cry.
Never seen my dad cry.
I think I must have done once or twice. I think the most recent time I remember was about a year ago at his friend's funeral when he was giving his portion of the eulogy.
Yeah, once he cried at a play, but not over something dramatic.
Might be ashamed, showing his true feelings.
I think he, one, holds in his emotions, and two, if he does cry, he doesn't do it in front of anyone. It's just, he hides it.
Yeah, I just think he's generally quite a positive guy, so.
Maybe, I don't know, he feels like it's his job not to let his guard down as much.
People have told me to man up so many times.
People often say, oh, come on mate, man up, like what are you doing, who do you think you are?
I have been told to man up or be a man a couple times. Well, not even a couple times, it's more of an often thing.
It made me realize that I wasn't the man I thought I was. It did kind of put my confidence down a bit.
Normally when it's said, I don't take it deeply. It's quite a light-hearted thing to say in my eyes.
It made me feel a bit bad because I felt like I was just being normal, acting normal, and I didn't believe I needed to man up.
When people tell me to man up, I often dismiss it because I'm like, man up, what do you mean? I am a man, I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm proud of who I am, I'm proud to be a man. I don't really think anyone can specifically man up because everyone sees themselves as a man in their own separate ways. So someone's perception of being a man may be completely different to your perception of being a man, which is perfectly fine, but yeah, I think the phrase man up's just a bit loosely thrown around.
If I was emotional about something, I'd probably just talk to random boys, friends.
Normally I stick outside of the family.
The person that I can talk to when I'm feeling emotional, if I have various problems, I believe is my mum.
I used to talk to my mom when I was younger, but now it's more like I speak to my boys about it.
I often try and talk to my boys and my close group of friends because obviously they know you very well and they know the best ways that are going to help you.
I think it would be a bit complicated to talk to my male friends. Maybe they would not understand my true feelings.
Well, as a man, I feel like we're pressured to not be scared of anything, to just be able to have all the answers.
I feel like there's more pressure to look out for your family if you're a man than if you're a woman. I don't know why it is and I don't think it's right, but that seems to be the case.
Pressure to never show weakness, basically.
I think in today's world, a man's role has very much changed from a man's role, say, even 10 years ago. I think men, well, I perceive myself as being a man in the world as, I walk around sort of like the breadwinner, all these traditional things, but I think the actual role of being a man now is just to equally provide and equally help out.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why I can't talk about being sad.
Yeah, I feel like I can talk about being sad.
I think you can talk about being sad. I'm not sure I do it a lot, But yeah, I definitely think I can, but only to a select group of people.
When it comes to talking about being sad, I feel like I can only speak to people who I feel comfortable about it with.
No, I do not see crying as a weakness.
I don't see crying so much as a weakness, but I feel like everyone cries at different things, so everyone has their own emotional tolerance in how they feel, and some people obviously feel like crying is the best way to get it out. Personally, I deal with it in other ways. I just sort of brush it past, so I don't mainly see it as a weakness. I feel crying is quite a good thing to do, because you know, everyone needs to cry now and then.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of weakness. Like, if you cry, it's normally because you're sad, and being sad is normally seen as a weakness rather than being happy.
I see crying as a weakness because it like openly shows how that person feels at that time. Like they have no control over it. Once you start crying, like it's just like, you know what's going on.
I think we learn to become men from a young age, especially when you're becoming a teenager, when you're meeting other people, when you're making new friends, especially throughout secondary school. I feel like you really start to see people that are becoming men a lot earlier, just the way they act, their mannerisms, and just how they go about life. So I don't feel anyone's born to be this big, strong, you know, like they're the man. I think everyone grows into it at their own times and at their own pace.
Definitely learn to become a man.
You're not born a man, because not everyone is born with male characteristics. Every social interaction you have leading up, especially in your teenage years and below, it normally adds up to be something. And so you grow into be a man, you're taught being a man by the people closest to you, really.
100%, you learn to be a man.
It's an ongoing process, so yeah, I believe you become a man the more you evolve in life.
I think people are, like, gender is very much learned, and people learn how to be a man from films or television and the general culture, because I don't think anyone could be innately a man, because what it means to be a man has changed so much over the years. So yeah, I think gender is definitely something that we learn and are taught.
Mostly I feel like children should be able to develop their own characteristics. Obviously my dad infused into me like what being a man is, and you know, how to pride yourself, your mannerisms, how to go about life, and sort of, you know, treating women respectively, which I think all men should do, and I think all children should have installed in them. But at the same time, I don't think they should be limited to someone else's idea of what a man should be. They should be able to grow up feeling like, this is what I feel being a man is, and that's how I'm going to do it, and they should be proud of that.
I wouldn't say that men are stopped from expressing their emotions, but they aren't encouraged to show their own emotions, basically. So like, maybe seen as a weakness.
You're expected to stop showing your emotions, especially like somewhere like the workplace if you're a man.
I believe that in our current society, it is a bit hard for men to express their real feelings.
I think in larger groups, men often stop from showing emotions, mainly due back to the weakness thing, because, you know, groups of men, groups of boys, always bantering, always passing jokes around, and often if you take it too personally, or if you're not as thick-skinned as like other people are, then
I absolutely think men are stopped from expressing their emotions. I think it's seen as something really groundbreaking if, say, the Prime Minister, if they were a man, were to cry, like on television when talking about some kind of, you know, disaster. Like, men in the public eye getting emotional is seen as like a very sort of moving, important thing. So it's almost like expressing your emotion is seen as a bit frivolous, and you're meant to sort of save it for the important things. I think it all kind of comes back to this idea of like saving your energy and your emotion for like the bigger issues in life.
I believe, yeah, a change should be made. The men should be more open to speak up about their own emotions.
In terms of the high rates of suicides in men, it is definitely linked to them not being able to express their feelings.
I feel like it's essential for everyone, not just men, but everyone, to express their emotions to someone. Whether you just tell someone, whether you know them or not, I feel like it's always better out than in, because if you leave it in and if you don't tell anyone, then it just plays on your mind a lot more than it really should do.
Men being told not to show their emotions, it normally results in them like building everything up in their heads, and when you do that, it normally seems a lot bigger in your head than when you let someone know about it. It seems a lot more simple if you talk about it.
I think there's an absolute link between the lack of ability to express emotion and the high suicide rates. If you don't talk about these issues, they do just eat people up. And it's not just like a male thing. Even like now I identify as non-binary and have gotten rid of all that, tried to get rid of all that crap from my head about what it means to be a man. I still have a lot of trouble opening up and expressing my emotions and my feelings, and I will just sit in my room and stew because I don't feel like I have an outlet. That's only a downward spiral. There's nowhere else you can go with that than a very dark place.
I don't think it's society that doesn't want males to be connected emotionally. I think it's more... Yeah, maybe it is, maybe it is.
I think society makes it harder for men to express their feelings between each other.
Society in general believes that men shouldn't be as closely connected with other men than women are. In terms of like friendships and friendship groups, men are seen much more as individuals, whereas in the media and stuff, females are always seen to like be helped by someone, even if that's like a group of friends or like girl power or like getting married or something like that. It's always the case.
I don't feel like society doesn't want it. I feel like they're more than happy now, especially as time's progressing, they're more happy to welcome it and support men. But I just feel that at the moment, the traditional roles of being a man often sort of prohibit men from displaying like their real emotional level and how they're feeling at this point in time.
I'm always a bit critical of like talking about society and like there's some kind of force going on there, but I think there is I think you could say that societally we do discourage male sort of emotional connections. I can't think of many really major beautiful films about vulnerable male friendship, whereas there's hundreds you could think of for women. And also family as well in that vein. I think immediately when I was thinking about films then I thought about Sophie's Choice or My Sister's Keeper. And it's often these narratives of women doing really amazing, incredible things or really awful things, having to do awful things for their children or their sisters. But there's never stories about fathers and brothers doing that for each other. Like we don't glorify the male emotional bond as much as we do, I think.
I'm probably more likely to talk to my dad about my emotions. Because I'm a single child, so my dad to me is always like my brother.
Yeah, I'll talk to my mum about like emotional things.
Yeah, if I was just feeling genuinely down or like just a bit depressed, then I'd probably go speak to my mum about it, just because I feel like she'd give more like honest, unfeeling advice.
I feel men or boys now are a lot more likely to express their emotions well. When my dad was young, obviously the tables were completely turned, you know. They went out more, they were in bigger groups. So of course they still had the emotions, but they sort of kept a lid on them a lot more.
Yeah, I think also because of the history of their past generation, harder events like wars and all of that.
I think the difference between generations in terms of suppressing emotion is that just different things sometimes get suppressed. In my dad's day, there would have been no like question of like sexuality or anything. Like that was not an option. Whereas now we'll talk about that a bit. We'll talk about that a bit more. People are coming out, and we have men come out and are gay and express their sexuality.
Yeah, I know my granddad and my dad are pretty closed books when it comes to that kind of thing.
Ideally, I'd like it if we could get rid of the idea of this, like the social construct of a man entirely. I'm not a very big fan of gender. I think it really does fuck people over by giving them a box into which they have to slot themselves. It's a very liberating experience to step out of the box and try and do something different and try and live a bit more authentically.
I mean, it wouldn't do any harm to change a few things like what we've been talking about in this interview.
In certain ways in which we could change this, or we maybe, I don't know, opening some discussion clubs for men, making psychotherapists more easily accessible for men.
Yeah, I think on both sides, gender could do with some working on.
Men, especially due to the high rates of suicide, just need to tell someone, whoever it is, just tell someone, and then they can either help you, and it's always better out than in.
Realistically, it's all hypothetical because there's nothing that really says that you need to follow what that says. In terms of the whole suicide thing though, I feel like men should be able to express their emotions if they feel down. Like if it gets to that level, like they shouldn't have to choose death over like speaking to your friends.
But there's a mask here, okay. And on the front, I want you to write what you show to the world. So like things about your characteristics, so if you're happy, funny, blah 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 blah. And on the back, things that you don't show to the world.
For the front I wrote funny, happy,
Friendly,
Timid,
A joke on.
easygoing,
calm,
fairly likable,
arrogant,
generous,
silent,
strong,
pissed off.
On the back, I wrote, you don't want to seem vulnerable.
quite shy. I'm not that smart.
open-minded.
My passion for things,
Just sadness really. You don't really want to like show that you're sad.